Self-inflicted poverty, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. The government of Nova Scotia announced this week that it prefers to be poor and live off the handouts of other provinces rather than attempt to stand on the province's own 2 feet. On Wednesday, the Liberal government in Nova Scotia confirmed that it will introduce legislation to ban onshore hydraulic fracturing. Here's the quote from the news release. Nova Scotians have overwhelmingly expressed concern about allowing high-volume hydraulic fracturing to be part of onshore shale development in this province at this time. That was Energy Minister Andrew Younger. Okay, but right after, he said this to a Sun News camera.
There's been a number of reports recently. Obviously, the most recent was the Wheeler report done for the government of Nova Scotia, which came to the conclusion that Nova Scotians simply aren't ready at this time for the use of hydraulic fracturing in onshore developments.
Okay, you'll notice in what he said on camera, what he said in his news release. He didn't allude to science in explaining the decision. He spoke of concern expressed by citizens, meaning this was a decision of a government scared of angry activists. Fracking is big business for the activist community, and environmental groups have spent millions attempting to shut down what is a safe industry using practices that have been developed and refined over decades. The big scary claim is that fracking will poison the water table. Despite decades of fracking in Canada and the United States, this concern doesn't bear fruit. Speaking before a House Congressional Committee in Washington, Lisa Jackson, a chemical engineer and the hand-picked director of the Environmental Protection Agency by Barack Obama, well, she told lawmakers there's no proof that fracking contaminates water.
I am not aware of any proven case where the fracking process itself affected water, although there are investigations ongoing.
That was in 2011. The next year, she told the media the same thing in response to a question. Here's what she said to a reporter.
In no case have we made a definitive determination that the fracking process has caused chemicals to enter groundwater.
Now, despite all this, that hasn't stopped the use of scare tactics to frighten people. And that's what's happened in Nova Scotia. Fear. Fear is trumping science, as well as decades of safe, successful fracking in British Columbia, in Alberta, throughout the U.S. Now, the announcement's been met with anger from some in the business world, putting Younger and company on defensive.
We're not shutting down any kind of industry involving hydraulic fracturing in the province because there isn't one at the moment.
Well, there may not be any hydraulic fracturing in the province right now, but that doesn't mean there couldn't have been one in the future. Younger's move to ban fracking ensures the industry will stay out of Nova Scotia. They had a moratorium in place before this ban. No wonder there's no industry. Next door in New Brunswick, fracking is an issue in the provincial election, and it's likely that if the Liberals win, which they're probably going to do, they too will ban fracking. The 2 Atlantic provinces will be joining Quebec in deciding not to allow what is a safe and booming industry across the continent. In banning fracking, these provinces are not only giving up the royalties they would receive from allowing natural resources to be extracted, they're also giving up on the jobs and economic activity that come with these projects. Meanwhile, provinces that allow for resource extraction, such as British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, they're paying the way of Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and so on. Nova Scotia and New Brunswick will each receive $1.6 billion in equalization payments from the federal government this year. Quebec will receive $9.2 billion. Nova Scotia's total haul from the federal government, once you include health transfers and other payments, is $3 billion, or a third of their provincial budget. Let me ask you this. Why on earth should they be subsidized while banning good jobs and revenue-generating projects? The equalization program is supposed to be a hand up for provinces that need help providing similar services to what the better-off provinces can afford. But, like too many welfare programs, it's become a trap. One that sees governments say they'd rather their people not work so that they can keep getting the government welfare payments. It's not like the people of Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or even Quebec couldn't use the work. All of these provinces are well above the national unemployment rate. Here's what the July unemployment report put the unemployment rate at in these provinces. 8.1% in Quebec, 10% in New Brunswick, 9.4% in Nova Scotia, and then out west, 3.2% in Saskatchewan, 4.7% in Alberta, 5.9% in British Columbia. The national average, by the way, 7%. So the provinces that are allowing resource extraction, they're doing far better than those that aren't, both from an employment perspective and a government revenue perspective. Maybe these eastern provincial governments don't want to bother with these natural resource projects because we're already paying them not to work. Time for a new rule. Refuse work, you don't get the welfare. And that's the byline.